meeting is being recorded.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Serenity Cards and Coaching. My name is Lela Meinke. You can find me at lelameinke.com. And today is a Zoom class. We're going over some techniques, and it's a little bit of a catch-up day. This isn't correlated with any current class. It's a little bit of a catch-up. And what we're going to do, this is last month's Coloring with Blends technique class. And if you can see, this really is a little bit of advanced technique. So we're going to take some time and do a little bit of coloring this card. I'm going to ask everybody here, go on mute unless you have any questions. Cindy, I'll pop you on mute. Yeah. And then the second card we're going to do, this was a card that I put in a team kit. By the way, if you don't have a demonstrator and you're thinking about joining Stampin' Up! With the Great Join Special this month, we've got a great team. And I often make kits available at a discount, my team kit available at a discount. So, and many times you guys on the team can just follow along with the PDF, but this one generated some questions. So I'm going to show that in class here today. So I'm going to show how it's called a faux shutter technique, and I'm going to show how to do that. So it's a little bit of a catch up. We're going to do those two today, and we'll start with this guy. So this guy, I don't know if you know this stamp set. It's Gift of Giving. And we've already colored these two, and you can check my YouTube channel. I have a class specifically on that, and I have a video specifically on coloring that. So today we're going to round it out. We're going to color this guy. You can color these very simply, or you can step it up and kind of do some blending with our blending pens. And so we're going to blend today. I love this stamp set. So, and I love these colors. I love everything about it. So I'll just tell you, and for those who did get this technique class, all the dimensions are in the PDF, but I've got a little different size card base today. It's 8.5 by 4 1/4. Then I scored it in half at 4 1/4. I've got Melon Mambo, 3 3/4 that way, 4 inches that way. Crushed curry on a little bit of an angle, 4 inches that way by 3 1/2 that way. This super bright Merry and Bright Designer Series paper, 4 inches that way, 2 5/8 inches the long way. And then our basic white, 3 inches that way, 2 3/4 down. And I'll go ahead and assemble that, but when we're all assembled, we've got that kind of fun, I don't know, just has a lot of movement to it. A lot of movement, a lot of excitement to you. But let's go ahead and get straight to the coloring. And if you want to take a picture of this, if you have this kit and you're going to color this, if you want to take a picture, what I've done is I've gone in and at this view, I've made it a point to color in the darker areas. And now I'm going to come in, those are where the highlights are. And then I'm going to come in and use the lighter color and kind of blend it out. Now this has been sitting drying, and so I don't know how it's going to do. So plan B is we'll just start all over again on this guy. But that is where I have the darker shading. And so for instance, if you want to take a look at the, like, let's look at the T. You can see that I've shaded a little bit darker there and a little bit along the line there and a little bit in the corner there. So you can kind of correlate where I've done the shading. And you know what? Pinterest is my friend. I went to someone else who colored these boxes and I looked at where they shaded. They did a completely different card, a completely different color scheme. I looked at where they shaded and I thought they did a really, really good job. So I just copied where they shaded and I thought it was really, really fun. So without further ado, let's get to the coloring then. So this, the colors that I'm using Flirty Flamingo Dark and Light. So when you buy our blends, you get the pair, you get the dark and the light. And then I'm going to use Daffodil Delight Dark and Light. And then I've got our color lifter. And I'm going to color on this surface because I think when I do the grid, if I were to put that underneath, it's a little harder to see, and then the camera is always wanting to focus on the grid paper. So we'll try this instead. So this is my dark, and I've already gone through and highlighted those areas. I've not done it this way before, so we'll see how it works. I'm now taking my Flirty Flamingo light. I'm taking the nib end, so the smaller end, and I'm going to pull the color from the darker area. Now it's dried already, so we're going to see if this is going to work or not. But I'm like re-moistening it. I'm pulling the color. I'm coloring it in everywhere else. We're going to see if this works. If not, I'll just go straight to starting from scratch again, and that'll kind of be the outline I follow. I mean, for sure, there's no blend there, right? Like that still is too sharp. We want a little bit of a lighter look. So I'm a little bit more of an integrated look. So I'm going to come in again, and I'm going to put another layer on it, and I'm really going to kind of saturate it, because I don't want the very thick demarcation. I want it to look blended. So let's take a look now. I mean, it's starting to get that nice blended look. So let's compare. Let's see, like, can I leave it like that? Or, I mean, it looks more blended in the other one. So let me take a little more time. So you guys, when you do this level of blending, it's a lot of back and forth and back and forth. So, so I'm going to keep my two colors here, and now I'm going to bring in the color lifter, which also starts to integrate things and saturate things a little bit more. It kind of lightens and it pulls. So I'm in here lightening and pulling. And then I'm going to come in again with my dark. And I'm going to try using the brush end. Now this brush end looks pretty good. So I'm going to use the brush end. Sometimes after a while, the brush end starts to get a little worn, but these both look pretty good. So now I'm coming in immediately with the next one. And what I had done with the dark was I pulled it out a little bit more. So now you're starting to see that blending. Yeah, so what makes a difference? So as we go through it, we're gonna re-moisten. But let's come in and take a look now at our tea. Looks pretty good. So there you go. And then it's going to dry and it's going to blend even more. So I'm just going to stick with the Flirty Flamingo while I'm here. And I'm going to go with my brush end. And I'm being pretty gentle. So I'm going to come in and color. And the brush, you can, I don't know, pull in a little bit more flowy of a manner. So I'm just kind of, there's just a lot of going over it and going over it and going over it. So now when I give a second layer with the light Flirty Flamingo, it darkens it a little bit, which is nice. And it's reactivating the darker, and so I can start to pull it more. And then I'm going to come in with this guy. I don't want to do too much, but I'm going to come in with the dark. Just give a little touch, and then I'm very quickly going to come back in with the light and pull it through. It takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of just gentleness, and it takes a lot of just, I don't know, kind of being in the moment. I love coloring. It's just a really peaceful thing to do. All right, let's take a look at that. So, how's that looking? Looking pretty good. Now that I'm seeing this guy over here, I had used the color lifter. It's got a little more white than I want, but it's as it dries, it's blending even more. So that's lovely. So I'm going to come over to the U, the letter U in the word U, and kind of get my base down. So that's good. And I'm going to come in and I don't want a lot of dark. Just going to kind of touch everywhere on the edges. And I'm very immediately going to come in while it's still wet and pull it. It's an alcohol, so it spreads. So I'm pulling it, darkening it. Just keep going over it and over it and over it. There we go. So you can take a look at this guy. He's blending a little more. He's starting to blend a little more. He's still a little demarcated. I'm going to let him dry and then come back in with him. And I'll get started on the yellows over here, on the Daffodil Delight. Now this end, you know what? This is starting to show a little bit of wear. I mean, I use yellow all the time. You can tell he's starting to get a little bit loved. And I just consider our blends a consumable. I use them a lot, and they have their set lifetime, and then we're done with them. So they're not refillable. There are people out there. Okay, so this end is not super cooperative. Almost might be time for a new Daffodil Delight for me. There are people out there, you can research, who try to find new nibs and they try to replace the ink, but I treat them as consumable, and they last a pretty good long time. And even if the brush end starts to wear, you can get a long life out of the other end too. All right, so now I'm coming in. It's a little bit easier with the Daffodil Delight to kind of blend them for whatever reason. The contrast between the dark Flirty Flamingo and the light Flirty Flamingo was a pretty big contrast, but this is less of a contrast, so it's blending a little easier. I'm just coming down here. It takes a lot of iteration, a lot of coloring. I'm pressing pretty hard as I'm going between the seam area. I'm pressing, I'm pulling. So let's have a look and see. I think it's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I gotta go back to maybe the Y and the U need a little more love, but the two O's look pretty good. So let's come back in. It's absolutely going to be a little bit different behavior if you don't pre-color those areas and let them dry for a long time. But I wanted to show you where the shading was. So, but it's okay. We'll get it all good and blended. And we might look at it and say, oh my gosh, I really notice. And is it really blended? But when somebody else comes upon it, they're just going to see the beautiful shading, and they're not really going to study, unless they want to, but they're not really going to study like where the shading is. They're just going to notice that it's shaded and it's pretty. So, all right, I've come in and I've applied one more layer, and I've really kind of saturated it. I've done a pretty good job staying in the line. I notice I'm starting to go out underneath this guy. So when I cut him, I'm going to cut right next to that line. So you guys, that's it. That is our, that's it. That's our shading, and can compare. Now, this is a little bit lighter. I think I used the lifter to kind of pull some color out of there a little bit, so you can come in and play with that. I'm not going to do that this time because I had such darkness on the edge there. I mean, I kind of did with the T there, you can see, but you can come in and use your color lifter to get a little bit of highlight and lifting there. So, oh, but let's color the bows. Let's see, I've got pink and pink. So we're just gonna do just a light touch of, you know, it's so funny. I've done these in a lot of different colors. I've got one here, I'll show you. I've been really playing with like a medley of colors, and I think the less color that you have in the bow and everywhere, I think just the simpler it is on the eye. I'll show you the other one that I have. I mean, it's really pretty, but it's pretty expressive with a lot of different colors. So I did one of the bows in light. I'm doing one of the bows in the dark flamingo. I'm leaving the white, the inside of the bow white as though it was white, so you could see that. And just gonna come in with the light, Daffodil Delight, and just give a little bit of touch and a little bit of color on some of these guys, just so we have a little bit of interest. And there we go. That's it. So now we're going to cut it out. And these guys cut really, really well. You can cut just right next to the box. Right next to the box. And so where it was going out of the line right there, now you can't even tell, it's all gone. And it was only just that one little spot. And the way that I avoid going out of the line is when I color, I go right up to the edge. I go right up like next to the edge, but I leave a little room for it to spread because alcohol spreads. So I don't color right up to the line. I color next to the line, and then it spreads right to the line. And it's, you just practice it and learn it. So now I'm cutting. In some cases, I'm cutting right on the line. In some cases, I'm giving it a little bit of space. It's easier when it's a straight line when you're cutting to just cut right next to the box. But with the bow, I don't think I would get it as perfectly, but it's going to go on a white background, so people aren't really going to look at the shape of the die cut cutout. I am getting rid of all that confetti look, but we're going to add some in the background when we put it in. So here we go. And I know I've taught about cutting before, but I move the paper, not the scissors. And that's a great cutting technique. I'm going to cut these apart now because I'm going to make two words. I tried so hard to keep the two words together, and it makes for a very long look, so it works great when you cut them apart and you've got it as two words. Just from a design perspective, I think it looks a lot better when it's two words. So that's what we're going to do here. So that guy's cut out. And we'll cut out this guy. This is a super fun, it's fun to color, and it's fun to make cards. It's fun to make tags. It's easy. Like today we're kind of doing the wow version of coloring, but on the Santa holding the gifts, I showed the easy version of coloring, and it really, you can just color it in without having to do all that shading. So let me get all my dimensions off. Let me glue it up, and then we'll have our finished little card. So that's that guy. Any questions while I'm gluing everything up? I'm not hearing any, but feel free to come off mute if you have any questions about coloring. I know that I know coloring is a challenge and it's a learning curve. I've been doing it for years and I keep learning, but where do you guys get stuck with coloring? What are some of the hard parts about coloring for you guys?
I think I tend to color, I tend to put the light down all over and then go and try to blend. Instead of working in small sections, I just do the whole thing and it doesn't blend well for me. And now I'm seeing why. I let it dry.
Okay, so you let it dry and you work on maybe too big of a section at a time versus one little section.
By the time I get to the end, it's, even the middle, it's dried already and it doesn't blend as well.
Yeah. And I probably shouldn't have shown you guys one where I had already put the colors, but I really wanted to pronounce here's where it's darker. But yeah, if I had my druthers, I wouldn't have put anything down and I would have done one box at a time. Okay, so good. Well, and anyway, your coloring's beautiful too. You really do a great job with coloring. Who else has questions about coloring or where? I really want to know where you guys get stuck because I know some people don't like it. And is it like just taking the patience and working it and working it? Is it getting out of the lines? Is it doesn't cooperate when you try to blend?
I think from my perspective, it's knowing where the shading goes, and also your comment about how it will lighten up and blend more once you've stopped doing it. Do like don't look at it while you're doing it necessarily, but like look at it after a few minutes, start dry. Because I think
Okay.
it does change once like once starting to dry, it does change a bit. Sometimes mine seems a little too harsh, but then once it's dried a bit, it looks better.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Valerie. Good. Any other, so what I'm doing now, the stamp that I'm using is the confetti stamp, and I'm stamping it in the crushed curry. And then I'm coming back in and I'm doing it in the melon mambo, and it's just going to be in the background. So any other questions or comments on coloring, like where do you get stuck? Where do you get stuck?
Lela,
Yeah.
I quickly tried to color with you, so I didn't devote the time that this deserved. But can I ask for critique?
Sure. Yeah, you know what? I can stop right now and turn it over to you. And if anybody's going to comment, it's a learning environment. It's safe to learn. And also, if anybody's also, we learn with respect. So let's have a look. Let me spotlight you. Oh my gosh, I love it.
Well, that's good, Cindy.
Oh my gosh.
You wouldn't have done anything different? I tried to do exactly what you did. I feel like the color lifter, I could have done a better job maybe with that. And I'll have to go back and watch your video because I was coloring while you were doing it, so I was probably missing some of the things that you were doing. But
I think it's
really want
really
to learn.
good.
Okay, well then you're a good teacher because I don't know how to do this at all.
I think I'm really glad I showed you guys where to emphasize the shading because I see that you've applied it and it looks really good. So yeah, any questions or comments from anybody else with respect? I mean, it's a learning environment, and thank you, Cindy, for being vulnerable. But any questions or comments or for Cindy on her coloring? I think it looks great. I'm not hearing any more. Good. Yeah. I love the red and the green. I love that you stuck to two colors. It's really going to matter And the same thing for mine. It really matters what you're doing in the background. So you know what I can tell you right now? I like my background, and who can tell me it's a small difference? It's a small difference. Who can tell me the difference? I know I don't have everything attached yet between these two cards. It is a very small difference, but and not just the coloring, just look at the whole thing. I know I'll get the bow on. I'm working on that right now. But who can tell me the difference?
So
If
the
anything pops out at you, go ahead.
the flirty flamingo and the one you just did is smaller than the other one. No, the background.
The
Is that what you're
background.
talking about?
Well, you
Or are
know
you
what it does look like it. It does, this melon mambo, it does look like it.
talking about? Okay.
This guy or this
Yeah.
guy?
No,
This
the first one.
this guy, the melon mambo.
Yeah.
Okay, he looks smaller. Okay. Um, probably isn't, but good noticing.
Okay.
And it's funny because it's not an exact square, it's a rectangle, so that's a funny nuance. I'll tell you, on this one, I made it a point to have all three colors in here. I made it a
Oh,
point for the DSP to have the curry, the flamingo, and the mambo. Now we're really getting into a nuance, but this is an advanced coloring class, right? So, so to me, I love that there's like curry there and daffodil, if you will, there. I love that there's curry there, but I feel like there's more continuity with the curry dots right there. So Cindy, what I was saying to you is I love your coloring as it stands. And then it becomes a whole new question mark of what are you going to put it on in the background? So I love your red and green. And then it's going to be how do you get then it's a relationship with the background too. And so that's the next learning. And I would just teach in my own if I had my druthers, I would have one. And I took time to find like the right little piece and where I was gonna like I like lighter on top, heavier on the bottom. So here like I don't even have poppy in here anywhere. And it's a nuance, you guys. This like they are both fine. It would have been fine if I didn't even do all that shading. We're just, taking it up a notch, so I thought I would share that. So anything else before I move on? I'll get those popped on with dimensionals and I'll get my ribbon tied on, but that's our final card and that's how to color. So little different look and feel. I think this had a little more of a color lifter, but I like this one too. So and I put my 3 little dots and I like to do a triangle and I did the silver. So it's got the silver ribbon and then the silver dots. And so there we have it. All right, I'm going to move on to the next card then, if there's nothing else here. And I think I see that Carrie just joined. Hi, Carrie. Carrie, you got this card. So I was wanting to make sure for those of you who got this kit that I closed it out with you guys and rounded it out and got you the final coloring instructions for the final one. So there we are. Awesome. Well, now for something completely different. We're going to focus on this card, and this was in a team kit, which some of you guys would have gotten, and it's a faux shutter technique. It's using the Delightful Floral Designer Series paper. Super, super fun. Love the color combo. Like they've got the Calypso Coral in there, and so there's a little touch of the Calypso Coral. So we're going to go ahead and make this guy next. So I'm going to move on, and the ingredients for this guy, and I'll tell you, because I know there was somebody on Demonstrator Planning Place who asked me for the dimensions, so I'm going to point her to this video also, because she wanted to know the direction for the cutting paper, etc., for cutting the paper, etc. So I've got 4 strips, and they're 1/4 inch by 5. So this is a great thing to do with leftover paper strips. I've got a Stylish Shapes die at 2 inches. This one's about 2 inches by 2 inches. I've got this piece of Designer Series paper, and it's 3 by 4. And I just cut it straight. I didn't do it on the, I guess bias, is that a word? I didn't do it on the bias. You can see like the stem is going straight down and the flower straight up. So that was 3 by 4. And then I did another designer series paper, and this was also straight up and down. It was not on a bias. This is 3 by 4 3/4. So if you're wanting to use, and you guys, I took a long time to see which patterns went together. And so I liked that these were little and these were larger and that they had the same color family. I tried every different combination of all the different papers and directions and etc. And this ended up being the best two together. So if you're at home and you've got this paper and you want to do it yourself, just take the sheet of this and cut it into 3-inch strips by 4, cut this into 3-inch strips by 4 3/4. We're actually going to end up using both sides of it, and I'll show you that, and it fits really nicely. So 3 by 4, 3 by 4 3/4. Put those to the side. We're going to use a template in the background, which is 3 3/4 by 5. And we're not even going to see it. I mean, I'll show you the card. You don't even see the white. That's not the white on the inside. Well, there is on the other one. That's not this guy. This is 4 by 5 1/4. It's an inside liner. It's a hidden thing. It's going to be like I don't know. It's going to be our working surface. And so that was 3 3/4 by 5. And then we've got our, oh goodness, Berry Burst card base, our white liner on the inside, and then our 4 by 5 1/4 fresh freesia, which I've already attached. So ultimately, we're going to use this as our working surface. We're going to build to this basically, and then we're going to adhere it to the card front. So let me get my stitched shape and get started with the stamping. And this is one of those where I think I used fresh freesia hearts, but I'm not exactly sure. Let's see, where'd it go? I know the first time I did it, I used fresh freesia. The second time I think I used like a bubble bath and it was too light. So we're gonna go back, I think it was fresh freesia. So we're gonna stick with that because that feels like those hearts are too light. So I'm gonna use fresh freesia stamped off. And the stamp pad that I used for that is last year's Celebrate with Tags. It's still current. I love these hearts. They're just super fun to use as just fun little hearts. So I'm going to use fresh freesia stamped off in the background. And you know what? Remembering the sequence of events, I know I put the sentiment on first. So I'm going to do the sentiment first. The sentiment's from So Sincere. And it's knowing you brings joy to my heart. Joy, 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 down in my heart. Down in my heart. Down in my heart. Don't tease me, I don't know how to sing. But I know how to do it joyfully. So I'm going to do joy, sentiment, and I'm going to hope it stamps straight. It did. And the secret to it was I lined it up straight on the stamp block. And then I also kept an eye towards like where the top of the sentiment and the bottom was. So like I kept an eye that that was straight. So blessedly, it worked out. You know, sometimes it doesn't, but it did. And then I've got my fresh freesia, and I know that I just kind of did that, and just kind of did that, and may not be as perfect as the first time I did it, but I'm calling it good. And I'm going to put some dimensionals on. And that's the very first thing that I'm going to put onto my, I don't know, working surface, I'm calling it. So there we go. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to center it, and I'm going to have it kind of close to the top. So there we go. I probably could have done a better job with the hearts, maybe stamped them off a little bit more, but we're going to go with it for now because we're learning how to apply this. Let me close my ink pads around here. And let me get my glue. So where we're headed is we're going to take these 4 strips And it, you know, when I put the kit together, I thought, oh, maybe I'll just give 2. You guys could cut it in half. Well, guess what matters? We care that that's a straight edge. So I wanted to give you a long enough surface that you could start with a straight edge. So we're starting with a straight edge. This is on dimensionals. And then you're going to take this and you're going to put it right next, not under, right next. And we're going to glue it. And we're going to make sure like it's flush at that end and flush on that side. So I'm going to put a little glue on the back. I'm also going to put some and I don't care if it oozes out. Well, yes, I do. All right, I'm doing it very, very faintly. I'm also going to kind of just do a line here so that it stays. I do care if it oozes out. So if your fingers are really, really clean, you can push this down and make it flush on each end. And then it comes back up. We don't want it to stay down. It's raised. We want it raised. But there we go. And we're going to go all the way around with our strips first before we add our designer series paper. I'm going to go all the way around with my strips before I snip them off. But we're going to have a lot of this where we have stuff coming off the edge and we're going to have to trim the edges. So, oh, Wrigley's in here. Hello, Wrigley. Wrigley and I had training today. We did well. He's doing so good not jumping on people. He's doing really, really good. Hi, Wrigley. Are you shopping? He likes to come in here and see, what did Mama drop? What kind of garbage is available? What kind of things can I pick up? So I'm doing the same thing. I glued it, and now I'm going flush against that edge and flush against that edge. It's easier when it's closer to you, but that's pretty good. I'm going to keep rotating, and you want it adhered all the way down because you do. So I'm just putting glue all the way because I don't know how far it's going to go. This is a shorter edge, I guess. So I'm going to do it flush right there. It's so pretty when it's done, and it's really, you know, it might take an extra little minute to fuss with it like this a little bit, but it's really, really pretty and impactful. I think there's shortcuts to it where you could put a whole piece of designer series paper down and then put the 4 corners and then just put alternate patterns. But if you guys know me, we don't do shortcuts. And you know you did a good job when they line up at the end, so thank you. Very grateful. That that lined up well. All right, fantastic. So I could come in and cut if I felt like it, but I'm not feeling like it yet. So now I'm going to take my piece of 3 by 4. And I told you, you're just cutting it straight like that, but you could put it on like this. Well, here's the cool thing. When you put it on like this, it still looks pretty good. So I'm just going to put glue right around the edge here. And I'm putting it on the paper, I'm putting it on the working surface, not the designer series paper, because I'm going to use this other half. So I'm putting that right there, getting it right flush in the corner. It's flush. Oh, I'm so grateful. I did one of these where it didn't line up super flush, and that's not as fun. But this one, when you take your time and you go really slowly, it's flush. Now we're going to get to cutting, and you could use your cutting board or you could use scissors. Got some glue happening. The first thing I'm going to do is come in and just cut, I'm not going to cut perfectly straight, but I'm going to cut enough that I know I'm preserving that end because I'm going to use it on the other side. So I'm not doing this for precision right now. I'm doing it just to preserve the other end that I'm going to use. So that's fine. I'm preserving the other end that I'm going to use. I'm going to bring it back over here. And did I do it right? Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now I have enough that I can bring it over here and tuck it into the corner over here. And it fits and it's a good direction. So we're just going to glue it over here. Those of you that have the team kit, have you done this one yet?
I'm doing it with you right now.
Awesome. How's it
Cool.
going?
No, I haven't done it yet.
Questions? Any questions? Is it going okay?
It's going good. I did kind of mess up just a little bit. I didn't get the strip all the way to the edge, so I have like a gap.
Okay. Now we're not going to use this paper anymore, so I'm just cutting it off just to get it out of here. And I think while I still have clear borders then, I'm going to start to trim with my trimmer. So let me do it this way. Well, I'm going to come in up here. It just takes a little patience and a little bit going slowly. I'm going to trim up here. If you have long scissors, they're great for this. We used to sell them. We don't sell them anymore. If you have long, they're great for this. Now I've got that, so now I can go up here and go along the top. I can get a good clean edge right there. So that's a good clean edge. And that's clean enough. And now I know I've got a straight edge there, so I can come over here and do a straight edge. I'm always going to come from the top. And the reason I did it after the 2 is because if I had stuff sticking out on all the edges, then it would be really hard. You wouldn't have a surface to work against. So, all right, so great. All right, so we're half done. And now we're gonna come in with our other paper. So this guy's a little bit larger. Got 3 by 3 1/4. We start in the big corner first. We're going to tuck him in right there. I love that you guys are stamping along. That brings joy to my heart. I've wanted that forever. Of course, in order for that to happen, I have to get you guys the kits on time, don't I? All right. Or the instructions. Okay. So that's tucked in the corner. And that's great. around so that I preserve the paper so I can use it on the other side. And the other side is just teeny tiny little. So we'll put some glue up in that corner, and then we'll straighten out our working surface, and then we'll be able to adhere it. So I'm going to put that in that corner, and it tucks right in. I'm going to cut it off, but then I'm going to go to my trimmer and really cut it off. I'll bring this guy back over again, and he's straight, so let me do that. And now that guy's straight. So let me do that. And that guy's straight. I might have cut this a little too close. I think I'm going to use my scissors for this. Might have cut it a little too close to use the trimmer. And the thing about nice big scissors is you can kind of feel the edge as you're doing it, so you know you're not cutting the cardstock. All right, there we go. Ta-da! And then take our card base, and I think I have it on dimensionals, so we'll put it on dimensionals. Let's just make sure our edges are looking how we want them to look. I think it looks pretty good, and then I'll get my bow on. So there we go. How's it going, Carrie?
It's going good. I love this paper. It's so pretty.
Isn't it so pretty? It's what is it called? Delightful Floral. It's still available. It's an
The
online
exclusive.
It's an online exclusive. If you need help with it, I can get you the part number, the product number. It's an online exclusive, so it's only available while supplies last. It is still available. It's so pretty. There we go, and we can put our, this is Calypso Coral, like jaded twine, so we can go ahead and put that. Like you could literally, how many cards could you get out of, there's like 2 sheets. If you just wanted to do this same design, you could get so many cards out of it. That's why I like to give the team kit, like the latest, you know, the cutting edge, like the newest thing that's coming out. And then I bring it, like when it's on pre-order, then I bring it to customers the next month. But I like you guys to get a chance to see it right away in case you want to get it. Then I bring it to customers shortly after. So there's our cute little Calypso bow. And then where did I put the gems? Oh, I just kind of placed them here and there and everywhere. So let's just do that. Got a gem here. Oh, you know what? I'm so consistent. I was looking. I put the gem on the flower right there. I put the gem on the flower. Like that's, I just like to kind of put it on consistent. I'll put one right there. And I'll put one right here. You guys, that's our sweet shutter technique, and that's our sweet coloring. There we go. So that's it. Any questions or comments? I'll go off record in a minute, but is there anything else, any learning or questions or anything that anybody else would benefit from hearing? All right, I'll go off record.
I love both cards.
Aw, thank you. I know, 2 different kits, but super bright and fun and colorful and yay. All right, I'm gonna go off.